You checked your phone this morning before you got out of bed. Someone announced a promotion. Someone finished a course. Someone launched something. And before your feet even touched the floor, you already felt late. Not tired, not unmotivated. Late. Like everyone else got a head start you never got. Like time is passing and you are not moving fast enough to keep up with it. That feeling is not new. You have felt it for years. And the strange part is, it doesn't go away when you accomplish things. You finish some things. You feel relief for maybe a few hours. Then the feeling returns. Still behind. Still not enough. Still too slow. So here is the question worth asking. What exactly are you behind on? Not a schedule, not a deadline, not a real thing with a date attached to it. You are behind on a story you built inside your head. A story about where you should be by now. And that story, not your actual life, is what is making you exhausted. This is not about motivation. This is not about time management. This is about a specific mental trap that keeps intelligent, self-aware people stuck in a permanent state of falling short. And once you see it clearly, the weight you have been carrying starts to make a different kind of sense. Let's start with how the trap gets built. Your brain is a comparison machine. That is not a flaw. It is how you navigate the world. You understand your own progress by measuring it against something else. Against your past self, against others, against an imagined future version of you that has everything figured out. Psychologist Leon Festinger called this social comparison theory. We do not evaluate ourselves in a vacuum. We constantly look sideways. And in small amounts, that comparison is useful. It tells you where you stand. It motivates you to close gaps. But something breaks when the comparison never stops. When every scroll, every conversation, every quiet moment becomes another measurement. When you are no longer comparing yourself to grow, but comparing yourself to punish. Here is what happens in your nervous system when that loop runs constantly. Your brain does not distinguish between a real threat and a social one. Feeling behind, feeling inadequate, feeling like you are losing a race that everyone else seems to be winning. Your brain reads all of that as danger, not metaphorical danger. Actual physiological threat response. Cortisol. Shallow breathing. Narrow focus. The same signal your ancestors got when a predator was near. You are not lazy. You are not unmotivated. You are chronically stressed by a comparison loop that never turns off. And chronic stress does not make you faster. It makes you frozen. So why does the feeling persist even when you accomplish things? Because the goalposts move. Every time you reach something, the story in your head updates. The finish line shifts. What used to be enough becomes the new floor. This is called the hedonic treadmill, a concept studied extensively by psychologists Philip Brickman and Donald Campbell. The idea is simple. Humans adapt to new circumstances almost immediately. A raise feels good for 3 weeks. A new apartment feels exciting for a month. Then normal creeps back in, and the feeling of being behind returns as if nothing happened. This is why high achievers are often the most anxious people in any room. It is not because they are doing something wrong. It is because they have optimized for the treadmill. They get faster, and the treadmill speeds up with them. The real problem is not that you are not doing enough. The real problem is that you are measuring the wrong thing. You are measuring your life against an imagined timeline, not a real one. Nobody handed you a schedule that said, you must have this, do this, become this, by this age, at this point in your life. That timeline came from comparison, from your parents' expectations, from what people around you achieved, from profiles you follow, from movies you watched, from ideas you absorbed before you were old enough to question them. And now that timeline lives inside you like a rule, and every day you are not matching it, a small alarm goes off. Behind. 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 Here is the reframe that changes things. You are not behind. You are just measuring yourself against a fiction. That is not a comfortable thing to hear. It sounds like an excuse. It sounds like settling. It doesn't mean stop working. It doesn't mean lower your standards. It means stop treating a story in your head as if it is a real clock that you are failing to beat. Albert Bandura, one of the most cited psychologists of the 20th century, spent decades studying what actually predicts human achievement. Not intelligence, not talent, not work ethic in the abstract. He found that the single most powerful driver of sustained effort is something he called self-efficacy. Your belief that your actions can produce outcomes. Not belief in yourself in a vague way. Belief that the specific work you do today connects to real results. That belief collapses when you are constantly measuring yourself against a moving finish line. Because no matter how much you do, it never feels like enough. The connection between effort and outcome disappears. You work harder. You still feel behind. The loop closes. Learned helplessness starts to form. The exit is not to work harder. The exit is to change what you are measuring. What would it mean to measure your own progress instead of your imagined gap? Not where you are compared to where you think you should be, but where you are compared to where you were. 6 months ago, did you know what you know now? 6 months ago, were you doing what you are doing now? 6 months ago, did you have what you have now? The answer, almost certainly, is no. But your brain did not register that growth as progress, because it was looking sideways the whole time, at other people, at the imagined future you, at the version of your life that exists in a story you built from comparison. There is a particular kind of exhaustion that comes from this. It is not physical. It is the exhaustion of running while being constantly told you are not running fast enough. It is the exhaustion of never being allowed to feel like you have arrived anywhere. Always in transit. Always behind the curve. Always almost, but not quite. And the thing that feeds that exhaustion most is something almost no one names directly. It is the habit of using discomfort as evidence of failure. When you feel behind, your brain interprets that discomfort as proof. Proof that something is wrong. Proof that you are not enough. Proof that the story in your head is true. But discomfort is not evidence of failure. Discomfort is what it feels like to be alive and wanting more. It is what happens when ambition meets reality. It is not a signal to panic. It is a signal that you care. The people who seem like they have it figured out are not free from that discomfort. They have just stopped treating it as proof of a verdict. So what do you do with this, practically, starting today? You stop asking where you should be by now. You start asking where you were, where you are, and what one thing you can do differently this week. You take the imaginary timeline and you set it aside. Not forever. Just for today, because it is not informing your actions. It is only measuring your shame. You pick one direction, one area, one thing you actually want to build, and you measure that one thing against itself over time, not against other people's timelines, not against some version of you that you imagined in a more hopeful moment. You give the treadmill less power by refusing to keep adjusting the speed. You remember that the people you are comparing yourself to are also comparing themselves to someone else. The chain never ends. Someone you think is ahead of you feels just as behind as you do, not because they are failing, Because the comparison machine does not stop running on its own. You have to turn it off manually, repeatedly, every day. The feeling of being behind is not feedback about your life. It is feedback about your measuring system. Change the measure. Change what you count as forward. And the race you have been running in your head, the one where you are always too slow, always too late, always almost, but not quite there, it stops being the only race. This morning, before your feet hit the floor, you already felt late. But you were not late. You were just looking at someone else's map and wondering why you are not further along on a road you never chose to walk. Your life is not behind schedule. It is on yours, the only one that was ever real.